guys.
Hey.
Injuries for today, guys. We got Brunskill hamstring won't practice, Kittle with the groin won't practice, and Greenlaw with an elbow will be limited. Everyone else will go.
How serious is your feeling?
Not sure. I was hoping to be good today. Did it a little on Monday and not feeling good today, so we'll have to see day by day.
With Brunskill still out, did that almost lock in Burford, Brendel, and thanks, I'm sorry, as your guard, center guard?
Yeah, it almost does.
It almost does?
Yeah.
Not quite.
I mean, lots of things can happen.
Are you happy with those guys, with the way it's set up?
Yeah. I mean, you always wish you had guys who had played a bunch of years and been to a bunch of Pro Bowls already, but this is how it starts for guys. Banks is really getting his first opportunity. Got to sit behind Lake last year, so excited for him. And Burford's been a real talented guy. We brought in as a rookie who's done well in camp, and there's been some injuries. Like guys haven't been there, like you mentioned, and he's taken advantage of his reps. So I'm good with the guys we have in our building.
You started camp with that, basically. Did you do it thinking this really could be the guys, or were you just kind of putting names there?
No, we did it thinking they could, also knowing what we already had. I mean, we knew what we already had in Dan. He had been at that spot for a number of years, and we also knew he was capable of doing center, but hadn't done enough reps at center. So we wanted him to focus more on that, and we knew, especially someone like Burford coming in, being a rookie in a smaller school, he needed as many reps as he could. So the better thing was not to have him rotate with the guy who didn't need as many reps.
Has Kittle's injury been tough?
2 or 3 practices back?
He's looked good. Looks like Jimmy always has, throwing the ball real good. I think he's had 2 practices, but it's been good.
Do you think he's in a place where he'd go maybe number 2 on Sunday?
Yes, it is.
And in terms of,
The team, you coach the coordinator, just use it week 1. How do you go about preparation for that?
It was just always unknown. I mean, you got an idea, not being in this league and being a D coordinator for a while, but it's always unknown how they're going to match it up with their players and stuff. And they have the same stuff with us. I mean, even though we've been here, it's always a new season. You really never know until week 1, and you see how that evolves throughout the year. I know everybody. I think the hardest thing for all coaches at the beginning of the year is how much we have to look at preseason tape and last year's tape. It gets really aggravating for coaches because it really doesn't get to this year's tape till like week 6, 7, and we hope it gets there as fast as it can.
has George been bothered by this through camp, and is he gonna be one of your captains?
Yes, George was one of the captains. No, it didn't bother him at camp, it started bothering him on Monday.
Other captains?
We got Trent, we got Kittle, we got Bosa, we got Devo. Oh, no, sorry, we don't have Devo. We have Armstead, there's 2 more. Jimmy Ward,
Is Trey captain?
Warner?
and Fred Warner.
Trey's not.
So 6 captains.
So a little off topic, but season starts, you've done this dozens of times. You know it's gonna be intense, you're gonna be every week. How do you keep from burning yourself out by week 7? What do you remind yourself of now and say, I don't wanna do this?
You just get on a routine. I mean, every day's kind of the same. I think players get in seasonal shape, and coaches do too. I mean, it's always harder at the beginning. There's a lot, you kind of just get in the groove as it goes, and once you get in, every day is almost the same. So it's just about not freaking out too much, not making too big a deal about everything, but you also need to make a big enough deal because everything matters. So you just get used to it, and you're patient, and you try to talk through everything, and you get in your groove as the year goes.
Are you getting less sleep during that time? I mean, we assume you were.
You mean during the season? Yeah, definitely during the season. I try to get as much in the off season as I can, but I'm not one of those guys who's going to talk about my hours all the time. There's just not enough days in the week, and there's a lot of stuff to do, a lot of stuff to cover.
Coach, in that same light, do you get butterflies? Players talk about the first games, you're just kind of getting it out of them. Do you get them? And if you do, what knocks you out of it? Players say, I get hit and I'm good to go. Is there anything like that for you?
When the game starts, that's the easiest thing. The game is usually the most relaxing. I mean, it's intense. There's no doubt about it, but you're comfortable in it because you're doing something. I think the building up to the game is always the hardest. There's a lot of stuff to go through, which is good when you're practicing and focusing on that. But besides that, you get at night and stuff, and you're just like, I want to stop going through stuff. Let's just get the kickoff. And once you do kick off, then it all kind of goes away, and you're clear, and you just compete.
Kyle, not to make a huge deal out of this, but I mean, a lot of the veterans have talked about Trey's leadership. We see him lead the team out of the huddle. We see him break the team down in preseason. What does it mean that he's not a captain?
I mean, if you didn't look into it that much. He was 7th in the voting. I just don't want to put 7 on there. And then Tebow was 8. That's why I mentioned his name on accident. We just didn't wanted to go with 6. They don't allow 8 to the coin toss, I don't believe. So it's also his first year starting for us. You know, I think guys do. You know, there's not many rookies who end up being the captains. I know this is his second year, but he's a rookie for us in terms of his first time being our starting quarterback.
Do you still, but does that impact like what you expect of him as a leader?
Yeah, captains are more. I mean, we got a lot of people we treat like captains. There's nothing. I mean, I respect the hell out of our captains, and our team does obviously too, because they voted on them. But that's not everything to me at all.
Like I said, it's strictly player vote, not coaching at all involved with that.
No, not at all. I mean, I always get the final tally. And I could cheat if I wanted to. I actually didn't at all. I agreed with all their choices, and I just made the decision not to have 8 of them.
Special teams was a point of emphasis for you guys this offseason going into week 1. Do you feel like the upgrades that you made on, I guess, that side of the ball manifested?
Yeah, I think we added some players that I think will help. There's no doubt about that. Just getting some guys like getting Burks, getting George. Those are guys who have had a lot of success in this year. And I also think the guys in front of him, for the most part, I mean, it was tough with Jimmy, but being able to stay healthy and allowing those guys to stay in special teams roles is, to me, the biggest deal. That's where we struggled a lot last year, and it's kind of a trickle-down effect.
Another captain question for you. Nick is just kind of an understated, low-key guy. Doesn't really come off as, you know, a big leader. What does that say to you that he was voted one of the captains?
I think by how he handles his business. I mean, you guys hear how I talk about Nick. I mean, he's as professional, as dedicated to his craft and us winning as any player I've been around. He's not a real outspoken guy, but he's as genuine and honest as anyone I've ever been around. And everyone knows how good he is too. He wasn't voted. I don't think he was one last year. But he was voted this year, and I think because he talks gradually more and more to people. I mean, he's not a big guy to get in front of the whole room or anything, but when it comes to one-on-one and how important football is to him, he's as good of a leader as I could draw up.
We'll start alongside Huff at safety.
We got a few choices. Decide that Sunday, like right after kickoff.
Before the defense goes on the field.
Right.
Tyler Croft is a new guy to this team. What do you like about him, and did you need to see him in a receiving role in order for him to make the squad?
Not really. We've been a fan of Croft his whole career, and I was a real big fan of him coming out of college. And he's done well everywhere he's been. He had some injury trouble last year. I think the last couple of years that he struggled to stay out there. I think that's one of the reasons we were able to get him. But Croft he's an NFL tight end. We feel very fortunate to have him here. That was one of the hard decisions, whether to go heavy at tight end, heavy at running back. I mean, all this, you never know what's going to happen until after someone gets hurt. Wish we could keep all our running backs, wish we could keep all our tight ends, but Croft made it, so we went there.
I think John mentioned on the radio before you guys officially, maybe it already sounds or anything, talked to leadership council or something about what was going to happen. Why did you do that, and what was as much as you can say, what was that conversation?
I mean, I wanted to be the one that told him what we were thinking and why we did stuff and how it went. And I didn't want him to read Matt's article or anything like that. Just joking, but kind of. You got to get in front of it, because that is a joke. But and I get it. That's everyone's job to do, and you can't go tell the whole world that. So I come in and I explained everything first to Trey, exactly what I explained to you guys, and then I explained it to me, because those are 2 people affected the most. And then I'm hoping I can get a group of players in, which we haven't voted on captains or leadership council yet, so I kind of just picked my own and talked about 15 guys and just told them exactly what happened from day 1 to whatever that day was, and wanted to see what they thought about it and what they had. And they felt the same way I did. So the same way our quarterbacks ended up feeling. So once you do that, you feel real good about it, and then you move on.
There's been former players saying on TV that this means that there's a lack of confidence in Lance. And very, very respected reporters have predicted that Jimmy's starting this season. And it's not a surprise, I imagine, in the conversation. But are you telling players to be braced for stuff like that? Or are you braced for just what the competition?
Totally, I know exactly. I mean, we all know how it would go. I mean, I also know if Jimmy wasn't here and Trey did that, how it would go. So we understand that. The fact that he has a successful quarterback behind him, it's obvious how that narrative will be, and understandably so. But I think our players also know Jimmy went through some tough times too, and they had his back. regardless of if they thought there was a better option. They had his back, and people got to realize that. Players, I think, need to realize that, just like their position, it happens at the quarterback position too. You're not going to be perfect. However, all eyes are going to be on that guy, not all at the linebacker at all times or the guard. And you got to realize when you do struggle, those guys know it's a lot harder to play well when no one has your back. And you got to help guys do that. And I think we got the guys who can do that. I think our guys did that for Jimmy when he was here, even when he was having some tough times, and allowed him to fight through that. And I believe our guys will do the same thing for Trey. I understand what people outside of our locker room will say, and they are right in terms of human nature to do that. But it's going to happen regardless if you don't play well. And I think we have an option to get Jimmy as a backup, which kind of shows that wouldn't have been an option if he wasn't coming as that. So.
You stuck with Jimmy last season when there was a lot of ups and downs. You had Trey behind him. Would you consider yourself someone who resist that or that doesn't want to make moves like that, especially for men?
Yeah, I just try my hardest to do what you think's right, and what you think's right isn't always an impulse decision. I mean, sometimes what you think's right, it could be right for a quarter, but how's that going to affect the next 2 quarters, or how's that going to affect the next month? And there's no clear-cut answer to that. So you can't just react to everything. And you understand everyone's reaction is to react, but you got to take everything into account. And there's a lot of more things that go into a football game than how the quarterback plays. And that goes to all 3 phases. That goes to injuries. That goes to coaching. That goes to everything. And it's never just a quick fix. And if you feel that's the only reason, then yeah, it's your job to make that decision. But if that's not the only reason, you got to bring a team together.
How would you describe Trey's confidence level right now going into week 1? You know, it's obviously different week 1 and preseason and filling in like he did last year. Are you pleased with kind of how he's been carrying himself and leading?
Yeah, I feel Trey's is in as good a spot as I've been around him in. He's confident, had a good camp, got as many reps as he's ever gotten before. He's been thrown in a ton of tough situations, some good situations, and now it's time to go play.
How much are you enjoying having a whole off season with him, putting together a game plan for the first time where it's really his role? What's your level of excitement just getting to see him go out there for the first time?
The same as always. I'm always excited for the first game. I don't try to make anything new into it. We'll put the best game plan together possible based off of what they do, based off of what we do. I don't look at it as a case that you got to reinvent the wheel and someone's going to come out there and show something. Trey's got to go out there and do his job. And if he does his job well and the guys around him do his job well, I feel like we have a good chance to win in any game. And if they don't, other guys got to pick it up. And that's kind of how you look at it. And he's going to have some good, some bad, and the other players can have some good, some bad, and hopefully you can get up with more points than that.
Did Trey return your text?
I didn't text Trey. This time, guys.
I mean, you spent a lot of time with him this offseason. I'm assuming more than last offseason. How do you guys click? How do you guys communicate? What would you learn about him this offseason being around him as much as you were?
I was around him the exact same amount. He just got more reps. So communicate with him pretty much the same way I communicate with you guys, anyone else. Just like 2 normal humans trying to do a good job.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks guys.
Need a break?